Hello, everyone. Welcome again to this episode of Real Wealth Solutions Podcast. We're excited to be joined today by our guest, Jamie Gruber. A little background on Jamie. He's an insurance executive, multifamily investor, and founder of the Gobundance Emerge and Ascend program. He also leads a national multifamily networking organization with over 20 chapters, more than 10,000 members. He's big on investing in mindset and development, and those have been the keys to his success. Jamie, welcome. If you would, just give us a little backstory. Why multifamily? What led you up to this point, and sort of where you are at this point in your journey?
Sure. No, guys, thanks for having me on. Without getting too deep, so I've been with the same company for over 20 years. I've kind of ascended through that organization, different roles to the title that I have now. Moved around New York to Boston to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that's where I am today. When I made the move to Michigan, it was for the job, right? The equity position, the one where you get stock awards and bonuses and all that stuff. The one that I've been kind of pushing for at that point 17 years, right? And the moment I got here, that the fun of that, the satisfaction from that achievement lasted about a month. And then it was like, wow, I just moved my family to Michigan and something feels really, really empty here. I don't quite feel as fulfilled as I thought I would by achieving this. And maybe I didn't have enough of a goal lined up behind that. It was sort of, this was the destination. And once I arrived, it just didn't feel as fulfilling as I thought it would. So in that year that I moved here, so I went through probably the most significant downturn for me personally in my life and my career, as far as, just not sleeping, not feeling whole, sweating in the middle of the night. Like I realize now that there was sort of the death of what I thought I was, the identity that I thought I had, that ego was literally and physically and violently separating itself from me, right? Like who I thought I was not who I was, because I realized I wanted more. I wanted a bigger life. I wanted a better life. Like the destination of a job wasn't enough for me, right? So I went through a lot that year. I found my way to, podcasts and books and things like that really kind of got my mind going in the right direction. And one thing that I kept coming back to, especially in that year when I felt like, my performance wasn't great at work, right? Everything was sort of falling down around me. Like, boy, what if I'm let go? What if I don't have this job anymore? It's a significant income gone. And I've got, a retirement I can tap in 30 years and that's about it. But what do I do now? So I found that most people I listened to, even if they were highly successful coaches or highly successful consultants or owned a business, it all kind of filtered down to their foundation was in real estate. So it kind of became like, all right, this real estate thing is interesting. My wife and I bought a couple of duplexes. We had one single family as sort of an accidental landlord from years and years ago. Bought a couple of duplexes. That was great. And then I kept hearing about multifamily, which sounded really, really intimidating, especially as people were talking about syndication and all this other stuff. But found my way to a couple of guys that you both know, Jake and Gino, with the Wheelbarrow Profits community. And they were just speaking in terms that made sense to me. Mom and pop, refi and roll, like very easy terms for me to get my hands around. So I really started down that path of multifamily, met a partner through that community with Jake and Gino. And we bought a couple of properties since, and we're actually looking at one more right now. So that's kind of how I found my path there. It was literally the breakdown of, achieved all I thought I wanted, but had the revelation and realization that who I thought I was and what I thought I wanted may not quite be what my soul or my being truly wanted to be. And real estate seemed kind of the foundational part of me building a new life for myself. So that's how I came to this point.
I know that we would talk about mindset at some point during this recording, but I'm going to just go ahead and jump into it
right
now.
out of the gate.
Let's do it.
Something stood out to me is that your identity was tied to your job in my interpretation. And you realize at some point that's not who you are. Your job does not. And I think us as men, by nature, we struggle with that. And so I think once we get to that point, though, and realize it's not tied to that job or a job or what we do, that's huge. And the fact that you realize that was happening, I think that's awesome. And you're still there, but you realize that we talk about the process, embracing the process. and not being emotionally tied to the result. And it sounds like you were. And when you got there, you're like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
It's got to be something else.
Yeah. Like, so my whole career leading up to that point was always with this role. It's a director role in mind, right? So, hey, Jamie, we know what you want to do. Take this job managing a virtual organization. Got it. Nobody else wants to do it. I'll do it, and did it successfully. Cool. Good job. For your development now, go take this job where you're traveling 40 to 45 weeks a year. You're on a plane. I know you just had a kid, your wife's at home with the kid or whatever. I'm like, got it. Done. Go. Right. That's who I am. This is who I am. And eventually it did. I mean, it did. Those things paid off, and it led me to the role. And I regret none of that. None of that. I don't believe in the word regret, as a matter of fact. But yeah, once I got here, full of energy and full of this sort of like, sense of like, all right, things just click for me. I go, I do, it happens. Then I get here and I run into, a tough boss who was under pressure herself. And that pressure from my department, which was failing when I first moved here, that's why the job was open, right? The person before wasn't doing a great job. Bring in the new guy and fix it. Well, great. I have a timeline like, hey, I got to move people around. Some people aren't in the right roles. I might need to fire some people, demote some people, re-promote some people, move people in here. That takes time, right? And it's reasonable. But my boss was under pressure before I got here for this department to perform. And that pressure was happening from day one when I got here. It wasn't, you don't have 90 days or 120 days or the rest of this year to get it right from her perspective. Where on my end, I'm like, I need more time for this. So for the first time, because my identity was my job, somebody was questioning my ability to do it well, right? And so now that's a crisis for me. That became a crisis. Didn't know it at the time. Sorry about that. Didn't know it at the time, but that's exactly what it was. At the time, I felt I was a victim. Like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this to me? What is her problem? It was about me, and her doing something to me, her being wrong, her being, a bad leader or whatever the case may be. That's kind of where my mentality was with everything. So you can imagine for me, my identity was completely being questioned. Like, this is who I am. I am this really great leader at this company. And this person is questioning who that. So it wasn't like what I'm doing or the work I'm doing is my apologies. There's a bunch of noise outside my door. It's of course happening right now, but
it's fine.
No worries.
It wasn't like the work I'm doing is bad. It was I'm bad. So for me then to separate that and to sort of stand next to the work and say, okay, I can deal with the work being bad, but then I'm going to come home and be a dad to my kids and be a husband to my wife. I wasn't capable of that. And again, at the time I wasn't thinking in these terms. This is all revelations after the fact, right? As I went through all of this and met the right people and got coaching and went through my transformation, I look back now and realize that's exactly what was happening. So you're right. As a man, it was, as any person, but as a man in particular, for me as a breadwinner, it was like, I might not be able to provide for my family. I'm a failure. I'm not good at what I do. I'm not accepted by this person. And coming to grips with, no, that's somebody else's opinion of something I do. It's not who I am. Who I am is, I have 10 affirmations. I say, I'm a great husband. I'm a great father. I'm a high achiever. I'm smart. I'm driven. I'm all of these things, right? I have these affirmations I go through every morning. Like, that's who I am, right? That's who I am first and foremost. It took a lot of work to get to that point. It took a lot of pain to get to that point. And I'll go through another crisis, I'm sure, at some point in my life of identity when something else fails. But I feel much more prepared to be in that moment and understand what's happening and know that the bounce is coming. I'll come back from that stronger. I wasn't of that mindset when I was going through this. I was like sliding down a hill toward oblivion in my mind. There was no way out of it. So yeah, big shift, big transition for me over the course of that year and a half. And I continue to move toward that.
Love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Holy cow.
Yeah. So you met your partner through an education community, if you will, and you guys have taken down a couple properties and you're on a third currently. Are they both just joint ventures with the two of you? You have other partners? What does the investing side of multifamily look like for you guys currently?
So the first property is now just the two of us, and this is our best property, but we started out with partners. So you mentioned at the beginning, this networking community that I have. So multifamily and more is what we call it. We started that because brokers weren't giving us any attention, right? Brokers were just sort of like, hey, great, you got some duplexes, cool, but I got closers over here. So I'll send you whatever I kind of think of to send you, but we just weren't getting anything within our criteria. And even if it was, way overpriced. Nobody wanted it type of stuff. So we're like, all right, let's become a face in our market. So we created this meetup. We called it Multifamily and More because there were no other multifamily meetups. And we thought, let's call it and more in case nobody's interested in multifamily. We can talk about other stuff, right? But it turned out everybody showed up for the multifamily. So that's really the kind of the core of it. But More does allow us to go into mindset and other things. But in that meetup, after about 3 of them, married couple came to us with a deal. They said, hey, we got this 8-unit under contract. It's actually 2 8-unit buildings in a community. We can make it 16 units, but we can't do it alone. Do you want to partner? We got to know them. We ended up buying the property together with them. And we went about our repositioning plan. And it went well. The plan was always we were going to refi out of that property together, and then we would have proceeds to go buy the next one. But that changed when our partner said, hey, actually, we want out. So we refied, but we had to give all of our refi proceeds to them to buy out the other half of the property. So my partner Benoit and I own that property together. The other property that we have is a 22 unit. We're partnered up on that one with a few other people. It is a JV. It's not a syndication, but we are smaller partners in that deal. We put some net worth in there, some experience. We were more sponsors of the deal than we are actively in that deal. And the other deal we're looking at now is an 11 unit that we hope goes well, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so we're kind of in those couple of deals and then looking for more.
All in your local market, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. The one in Michigan, the 16 unit that we have is in Michigan. The 22 units in Cleveland, it's about 2 hours away. And then the third one is right here in Michigan as well.
How did you see results from the multifamily more based on your intention? It's like, hey, we want to become more of a face in this industry, or at least locally or something. Did that produce results for you?
1,000%. Every deal I've talked about so far is from that, nothing from brokers to date. So that's one part of it. Our email list,
Wow.
our investor list is all from multifamily and more. It's interesting, like you guys were saying, like you've got this podcast, I don't know, who knows what the downloads are, but who really cares, right? In order to be credible nowadays, in my opinion, you need podcasts like this for you used to go to a meetup and hand out business cards. That was 1997 type of stuff, right? Like that's what we used to do. We still do to this day. But people sometimes start a podcast with the thought like, wow, there's so many podcasts. And for some reason, and I've been through this too, like you're thinking, how am I going to be Joe Rogan? Well, probably not. I mean, that's not the goal of some of these podcasts, but you do have people that pay attention to you. They pay attention to what you're doing. They pay attention to your investing strategy. They may be your investors, people considering giving you money to invest for them. So having a brand like this, a podcast, something I think is essential in this day and age, especially in the era of COVID when we can't get together, right? You need to still be visible to people. There's a stat, like people will invest with you essentially if they know, like, and trust you. And they know, like, and trust you typically after 6 meetings, right? 6 times that they meet you. So you can go to a meetup once a month for 6 months, hope to meet the same people over and over again, that at some point you develop enough of a relationship for them to invest with you. Or you can create a brand like you did, like I have, put yourself out there so people meet you on the weekly, on a podcast like this, or on a live broadcast you do on Facebook or whatever. And they begin to know, like, and trust you. So, and then invest with you. So for me, yeah, the first deal was with a couple. The second deal was with the chapter leader of our Cleveland chapter for Multifamily More. The third deal that we're working on right now was sent to us by a member of our group that said, hey, I was going to market this, but you guys have been so great with all the value you've given us. We want to, send this to you first to take a look at. And that's what we did. We went out, took a look at it, and we're in the process now of trying to figure out, what we want to do with this property, if anything. So yeah, all of my leads, like very few, I get some broker emails, but very few of the stuff that we follow through on or make offers on or put an LOI in on are from brokers. Most of them, if not all of them, are from our contacts within the multifamily and more community that we built.
Yeah. And I would add to that.
Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
If Darren will let me.
Yes. You have the floor now.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's not like you had thousands of doors and said, I'm going to create a community as part of my big brand and have that be the funnel for LPs because I'm doing $30 million syndications. Maybe that's a goal of yours at some point. I don't know. But, just by having some experience and being a facilitator for other people to join a network and participate, that creates some results for you in deal flow. So to start a meetup or to start a podcast doesn't necessarily mean that you have to come from a position of great authority or accomplishment. You can also just provide the platform, and that is the service to people just to participate. You don't have to be the expert with every question in your back pocket immediately able to answer. Just providing the opportunity for people to get along in a relatively consistent format. That's one of the main things, is just do it, when you say you're going to do it, and show up every time. And then if you're not the one starting the multifamily more or the real wealth solutions, you can get into some of these platforms. Like, you've got multiple what do you call them, franchises, that's not the right word, but groups throughout the nation. If you're involved in one of these groups just as a member, and there's 1,000 people on the page, there's probably 80 of that 1,000 that are participating on a regular basis and really contributing. So in order to break into that 1% or whatever of people that are really providing value and learning and engaging and asking good questions, it doesn't take a whole lot of work. And
No,
again,
well,
it's just to, like, ask good questions. Don't
Yeah.
ask anything that you can't that you can Google. Sometimes you don't realize that you can Google some things, but just participate genuinely, authentically, ask
Yeah.
good questions, and show up.
Dude, there's
You'll
so
you'll
much.
create your own personal brand just by
Yeah.
doing that.
That's the key, as a personal brand. And there's so much that in what you just said there. So I'll try to take this in many different ways. And as you kind of went along that chronologically. Yeah. One, people have this fear that you need to be, Vinny Chopra in order to have credibility to start a meetup, right? Or
Yeah.
Joe Fairless, or whatever the case may be. And look, I think the key to what you said in facilitating a meetup like this is authenticity. Like, when we started our meetup, we never went in and said, "Hey guys, yeah, we're the multifamily guys." It was like, "Hey, look, we're interested in multifamily. Sounds like a lot of you are too. And yeah, we just figured we'd bring us all together here." So, and the other part is we were one chapter ahead of most. We didn't realize that, but our first meetup, we threw up our credibility book, our business plan, right? Even the guys in the room that had some deals were like, "Oh, that's a great idea," right? There was 10, 15 in the room that day, or whatever the case may be. But everybody else got value out of that. We were one chapter ahead, no deals, just like all of them. But we had the idea from a mastermind to put together a credibility book, and it was value add to the people that came in that night and decided to kind of consume our content. The next month, my partner Benoit, who's more the spreadsheet stats guy, did a deal analysis. And I've said this before, like, there were like 3 syndicators that came that night because there were no multifamily meetups. So the guys that were actually doing deals, hundreds of doors, showed up, and we're like, poor Ben, he's not a presenter type anyway, but he's like sweating, like, I'm supposed to be the expert here, present. But he put up a deal, we went through it, and there were, again, 15 people in the room, and we would just kind of ping off, "Hey, what do you think of this? Does that make sense to you, to these syndicators?" "Yeah, no, actually, we do this, we do that." Became a discussion, and that evening was a value add for everybody. It wasn't because Jamie or Ben gave all the information. It was simply because we facilitated, we brought people together, which is more than most are willing to do. So that was a big part of it. It's just, we were authentic and honest with what our experience was, what our intent was, and people just sort of resonated with that. And again, the next month is when those 2 people came to us with a deal, because we were viewed, at least, again, a chapter or 2 ahead, as somewhat of an expert in the area, because we were putting out content, we were creating a meetup, and we had gone through some level of education, buy a course on Udemy, whatever, right? That's probably more than most have done before they go to a meetup on multifamily. They know about flipping, they listen to BP, all that stuff, but multifamily is a niche to its own, and some people get intimidated by it. It's not much to learn, but when you do, you're probably a chapter ahead. The other part of that about branding, and I've said this before as well, so pardon anybody that's listening where this is redundant, but I think there's 2 layers of decision you have to make when you're deciding on a brand. And we didn't realize when we started this meetup that it was going to be a brand, but that's what it turned into. And that is like, what are you, as far as, what's your strength as far as putting content out, right? You a good writer? Is this you like good on video? Is that your thing? Or are you Are you a, more of like a radio type of guy or gal, right? Somebody that I don't want to be seen, but I could be heard. Because that then makes you decide, okay, well, the medium I'm going to use is blogging if I'm a writer, or YouTube if I'm a video person, or podcasting if I'm audio, right? Or you could do a combination of the three, or two of the three. Because and with that, you decide which medium you most want to utilize. And I would encourage video, because video gets the most looks on the social media platforms of today, right? But the next decision you have to make is, am I the guy? Am I the knowledge? Or am I the brokering the knowledge? Like, which one of those am I going to be? So, all right, I've decided I'm going to be a YouTube person, but I know a little bit, but I don't know a lot. So let me bring on people that do know a lot and broker their knowledge for my audience so that they get value from this person that I brought in. So those are a couple of layers of decision to make. If people are thinking about starting a meetup or starting a brand or whatever, you don't have to know anything. You could just have interest and then bring in the people that know the stuff. You learn, your audience learns. If you're authentic and putting it out there clearly, like, I didn't know that. That's news to me too, folks. I hope everybody caught that. I just learned this and wrote it down. That's how you build those raving fans you talked about, those 80 out of 1,000 that actually consume your content. That if you said, hey, I've got this thing, it's $10, you'd be flooded with $10 from 80 different people. Like, that's how those people get built, right? And that's all you need. Like, how many people with 50 grand do you need to bring a deal down? Really? If you have 100 people with 50 grand, that's a lot of money. That's $5 million if I'm doing my math right? That you have to now go ahead and do a deal. You may have 1,000 followers or 20,000 on Instagram, or a group with 10,000 members in it, or whatever the case may be. But to your point, you only need a certain number of raving fans, people that trust you and know and like you, to do that. The last part, though, that you mentioned about consistency, I got this advice from Jake Stenziano, because there were some meetups popping up in my area, especially as multifamily became more popular. And we were chatting. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know how to, I'm feeling like the competition. He goes, don't. He's like, be consistent. Just be there every month. Guaranteed those are going to come and they're going to fall away. And he's absolutely right. Every other meetup that started out, every other, Facebook group or whatever, that was sort of my direct competition, if you will, fell by the wayside. They all went away. Maybe one that didn't, but more than anything, I encourage the one that didn't, like, post in my group when your meetup is, because if I'm truly going to add value and there's another meetup in the area that adds value, then how can I sit here and say, no, that's not my value add, it's somebody else's value add? It just sort of goes against my values. But anyway, so those are a couple of different things, kind of unpacking what you had mentioned about building a brand, putting yourself out there. You don't need to be an expert. Be consistent, and you only need a certain number of raving fans that are going to truly change your life. You don't need thousands and thousands and thousands of people to think you're the greatest. You need like 20, and again, if you're authentic and putting out good quality content consistently, you'll gain those 20. It may not be like tomorrow, but you'll gain those 20 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
About Greg and I started our meetup 2 years ago this past March. So obviously 2020 was a challenge for us, and we went virtual, and we were able to go back live a few months ago, but now it kind of went back virtual again just because of everything that's happening in Tennessee. But one of the things we did was we started meeting every other week to stand out from amongst groups. And Johnson City had no meetup of any kind. Another city within the Tri-City area did. And, it's been great. And then I think at some point along our progression, we realized not only the meetup, but this podcast has become a branding platform, if you will. And now it's, part of our bio. And you don't think about a lot of those things as you're getting started and what you're truly adding to people. And we'll be the first to tell you, well, at least I will, is that we don't know everything. And I like what you said about being able to broker knowledge if you don't have the knowledge yourself, being able to have a guest speaker, or guest person on virtual or whatnot. So, yeah. And I love the fact that I've thought of a couple of very young guys that are in their early 20s that have started Rockstar podcasts this year alone, and are already getting into some bigger multifamily deals just with those relationships they've created. Whether they have capital in those deals or not, they have created themselves as a thought leader. We hear that term of what we're trying to do with these meetups and these podcasts. So appreciate all that insight. No, that resonated with our journey as well.
Right. Yeah. I had the chance to interview Joe Fairless early on when we were when we started our YouTube channel. He gave me 30 minutes, which I completely understood. And we sat down, and the topic we got into was this: thought leadership. That was, I mean, Joe Farrell, he's got $1 billion in assets. And what he filtered it down to when we had our conversation was his thought leadership platform. You go read the best ever syndication book or whatever it's called. Like it's, this thick, it's like $60. Great book. Chapter 2 is, or 3, whatever, is building a thought leadership platform. I mean, is it absolutely necessary? Maybe not, but boy, to some extent, everybody that I know that's doing anything, whether it's a big syndicator like Western Wealth Capital or Jake and Gino or Joe Fairless or whatever, have some level of a brand. Very few are kind of head in the sand and just sort of churning below the surface. And even if they're not the leader of a brand, their brand is such that they show up and add value to others in communities like mine. Like I've got some guys that are doing hundreds of deals, right? Or have hundreds of units, I should say. They don't have a brand per se, but they jump in all the time and they're answering people's questions or whatever. So that's their brand. They are the expert. They don't need to spend the time and the energy on recording and editing and doing all that stuff. They spend their time and energy leveraging their knowledge to create relationships with people, and they don't discriminate. They don't look at it like, this person's brand new. They don't know. They don't add any value to me, so I'm not going to get. They just give of their time and resource and knowledge. And so yeah, and in one way or another, if somebody listening to this is a high-end investor, you can make the choice on which one you want to do. But to your point, you're a younger person, or even just young in your multifamily career, or young in your real estate career, you have a job, let's say, and you're trying to do this on the side. Boy, a brand, content, leveraging the free social media that's out there is, for me, the fastest, easiest, best ROI that you can get to create what you're trying to create. Investors, deal flow, some sort of capital in your market, if you will. It works. It works. People that are consistently doing it, I've not seen anyone regret that they've done it. It's like a workout. You go to the gym and you hate going, but then you go through it. At the end of it, nobody goes, God, that workout sucks. I wish I hadn't done that. Yep. Right. It's the same thing. I've never heard somebody say, man, I put so much effort into the brand. I wish I hadn't done this. I've just never heard it. It doesn't happen.
Do you and Ben actively pursue deal flow currently, or are you totally reliant and satisfied with what gets brought to you through basically your network?
We've been pretty happy with what's coming to us, given our efforts to actively pursue deals have been, how do I put it? When we actively pursue deals, we get a bit better deal flow, but there's a lot of effort in that, a lot of effort in, meeting with brokers and having lunch and doing all this stuff. And we weren't seeing the kind of return that was exponentially better than pouring into our platform and enjoying it, having fun with it. We really enjoyed doing it and getting what we get from that. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like if you go back to the gym, if you do 12 reps, is that 12 and a half rep really going to be that much of it? Kind of that. It's like that. It's that half rep that we've done, and it just hasn't given us the return that we've wanted.
I look at that with one of my newest favorite phrases. Instead of return on investment, it's return on effort.
Yeah.
And the older I get, that's increasingly important to me. Is it, and it can be more expensive, but the effort. What did I put into? What am I getting out of what I put into that? And to me, that's what you're speaking to right there. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, it gets to a point in your life where, and you're right. I mean, we're probably about the same age. I'm in my 40s now, right? So it gets to.
Oh yeah, I'm early 40s.
Early 40s, right? It gets to a point though where you look at there's a great, actually I think I have it. There's a great book. I'm going to show it to you by Derek Sivers. It's called Hell Yeah or No. I don't know if you ever heard of Derek Sivers or not. I heard him on the Tim Ferriss.
I think, Greg, you've mentioned this before, maybe. Hell yeah or no. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's where it came from, but either it's a hell yeah or it's a no.
Simple enough, right? There's a whole book on it.
Yeah, right. It's really large print and it's one letter per page.
Yeah.
And it's.
But no, that's essentially, to your point, there's a point in time where, and appropriately so, it's just whatever. Yes. I'm going to do everything, right? You reach a certain point. I don't know if I'm there or not, but I know at least for me, there's a balancing factor of I have a family, right? If I'm a young single person without any attachments, I'm balls to the wall. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to go do, right? But I have to balance that. And I still don't do a great job of it. I know I do well, but I could do better. I could be better at that, at being a father and husband first. I still can't help but, like, I'm on the phone, I'm, emailing and all. I can't help myself right now, but I'm going to have to do better than that as I get older. But that's one thing, this concept of hell yeah or no, it does two things for me, especially if you're somebody like me who struggles to say no to things. Like, I struggle to tell people no. I'm naturally a people pleasing type personality. So one, it gives me like, okay, hell yeah or no, an internal sort of reaction and awareness of that reaction when asked to do something, or when presented with something like, hey, I got this deal that, it's this, that, if you want to come in as a limited partner. And for whatever reason, maybe it's the person presenting it to me, or it's the deal itself, or it's my financial situation in that particular moment. If it doesn't, like, yes, oh my God, yes. Like, if I don't have that feeling, then I need to say no. I need to say no. I don't always say no, but I need to say no. That people pleaser still in me. So that's one. It gives me an internal sort of device to kind of measure, how did I feel about that? Like, yeah, I like it. It's interesting, but it didn't, like, Michael Jordan wants to have lunch with you today. Well, fuck yeah. Yeah. I'm in on that. Right. Like, that's the kind of yes you want. Right. Or it's no. That's one thing it does. It allows me to kind of internally do that. And then the second thing is, it allows me to explain to people when I'm saying no, because I feel bad doing so. I literally will say something to the effect of, look, I say yes to a lot of things. And what I've been working on is, when something's presented to me, if it really hits me as hell yeah, I'm going to say yes to it. Otherwise, no. I love what you're doing. I love what you're presenting me. I don't know why, but it just didn't hit me. Maybe just not the right time or day or whatever. So I'm going to say no, I'm going to pass, but thank you so much for bringing it to me. And I get nothing but like, that makes complete sense. In fact, people want to know more about, tell me more about how you just said no, right? Because everyone wants to say no, everyone wants to say no more. So yeah, so I feel like I got far afield from the question. My apologies, but
no, that's great. And that statement to them, based on the premise of that book, it also, you're not cutting off a relationship. The way that you just spun that to them, which is truth, entices them to want to know more and continues to build a relationship with them, but where they're going to come to you again, and not just no with no, you sort of put a little gravy on top and yep.
Yeah. I mean, even sometimes it's been like the most obvious, like, there's no more effort required to do this. Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, I could just sign my name and then something happens, but something just doesn't feel great about it. Like, even though there's no effort, like, say no to that. Cause then you get into decision fatigue and too many things happening at the same time. Like, you want to narrow your focus, but yeah, no, it's a great tactical way of kind of doing that. But yeah, that's been the idea of it, has been revolutionary. And the book gets into, to your point about like really big print, it gives you like layers of questions to define that a little bit better than what I just said, like this feeling inside. It gives you some things to ask yourself when defining what is hell yeah and what is no. So anyway.
Well, like getting into multifamily real estate or just getting started in anything, I think people have that fear of missing out, and there is a tendency to say yes to a lot of things. But I think as you progress a little bit and you get more comfortable with your knowledge, I'm more comfortable saying no, because I realize how little I know about another market that somebody's bringing to me.
Right.
And although on paper it might look okay, and unless they have an intimate knowledge of the market that I can piggyback on very confidently, if we're both in the position of this might be a good deal, I'm much more apt now to say no, because I'm just not familiar with that market. I don't know how to underwrite a class in Chicago.
Yeah.
So being just be very honest with yourself about what you're capable of doing, or can get to a level of comfort quickly enough that you're willing to go along. I found that very helpful.
No,
and that was
100%.
the other thing about being authentic, going back to like the meetings and stuff, is it kind of piggybacks on it, is just speak from your knowledge. Don't pretend to know something you don't know. Frame things in, from my experience, I have done this. And then if people ask a question you don't know, don't guess. Just, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And there's so much credibility in saying that. The authenticity is a currency out there that's so underutilized. Some people, it's like anything. You see the Lamborghini posting, or the guy in the private jet image that you can go like to a place and get that photo take. Like all that stuff is cool, I guess, but it doesn't resonate with real people. It just doesn't, so to the extent to which you can be completely vulnerable, completely honest, that you're willing and able to do that, you can attract, you will attract great people that you want to work with and that want to work with you. And I've just never seen it backfire on anybody. It's the best. Authenticity first and foremost is the best way to build a brand. If your brand is authentic, then whatever happens after that, you'll be forgiven for. When you make mistakes, people won't crucify you. When you say no, they'll understand, but authenticity is where you need to start any kind of brand, for sure.
Hey, it's Greg from Real Wealth Solutions. If you'd like to know more about our passive income opportunities, jump onto realwealth.solutions and hit that schedule a call button. We're always happy to talk about our multifamily and flip projects and to answer any questions you may have. Again, that's realwealth.solutions. We look forward to hearing from you. And now, back to the podcast. Let's talk about
Absolutely.
like imposter syndrome a little bit, because I was looking through one of your pages or whatever, and you did a post about that. And I think that's something that a lot of people have, either when just engaging from from the point of view, or they are a beginner. They don't want to ask stupid questions or what they perceive to be stupid questions. They don't want to be really, that's a lot of imposter syndrome, is why should I get involved here when I really know nothing and everybody else is miles ahead of me. And that's something that I dislike about social media. It gives you the impression that everybody is miles ahead of you, because there's a great survivorship bias of what people post on social media. No, hardly anybody's talking about all the shit that goes wrong. It's always about the deal they just closed and how happy they are about it. But really, do they talk about the 7 months of not sleeping at night trying to get to there? So I mean, can you speak to that a little bit? You got any thoughts on imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I didn't know what that was until it was identified. It's one of those things where you feel a relief when you hear that this exists, like that it's got a term, that it's defined. It's like, oh my God, all that stuff I've always felt like, I'm not good enough. Anything I've ever accomplished is all luck. Like all the evidence aside, like my success in life is just because like, I don't know really what I'm doing. I'm going to be found out soon. I'm a fraud. I'm not good enough. All of that stuff has a name and other people struggle from it. Like first and foremost, it's if nobody's heard, whoever's listening, if nobody's heard of imposter syndrome before, guaranteed 90% of us suffer from it in some way, shape, or form. Go look it up and just feel better knowing that there's a thing out there called imposter syndrome and that everybody has it. Everybody has it to some degree in some area of their life. You may feel very confident as a father or a mother, but not so confident as a career person or vice versa, right? And that lack of confidence usually stems from a level of imposter syndrome. I am not what my success dictates me to be. I'm lucky. I'm fortunate. I've Forrest Gump my way into this. All of that is imposter syndrome. And to your point, the idea that, I'm not enough to be with these people, absolutely imposter syndrome. And it's never something you're going to cure, not something I've cured, but it is something where the idea of, being present, and we can get into like meditation and other stuff like that I like to get into, this mindset stuff, but being present and aware of that feeling when it happens, and then understanding for you what you should do next. So the example of that would be like, I'm a mastermind guy. I believe in it. We were talking about it before we started recording, right? Like I love the idea of paid masterminds. I put my money where my mouth is, and I get into a community of people that are like-minded and driving towards something. Well, one mastermind I joined is called Gobundance. Gobundance, for those that don't know it, is millionaire and up. When I joined, I was like, I was counting the last penny, like, yeah, there it is. I hit it. I'm going to join Gobundance. Like, it was $9.99, $9.99, $99. Like that was my net worth.
You no longer qualified after paying the membership.
Right. Exactly. I was no longer, once I paid the tuition, I went to my couch to get the change to qualify. So I kind of like, I step into this room and then boom, I'm on a Zoom call with all the other guys that just signed up, and they're worth 3, 10, 18, 5, 7 million. Big entrepreneurs or whatever. And you want to talk about imposter syndrome, like flashing in my face, like red lights going off inside, 100%. Like in real estate terms, I am the absolute ugliest house on the block here. There is zero chance I'm going to last in this room. They're going to find me out. All these guys are talking about dropping 200 grand here. And yeah, I'm sitting on 1.5 million. I can't deploy it anywhere. Like, I'm like, who has 1.5 million sitting around and they can't deploy anywhere? These guys do. And I meet with them every week. Right. But in that moment, being present, being aware, I think back to when I joined a community like Wheelbarrow Profits and felt the same way. When I joined another community called M1 and felt the same way. When I became a director with my job and felt the same way, right? All of those times that I felt as though I wasn't enough, I'm going to be found out. This isn't going to end well for me. When I stuck through, every time when I stuck through and allowed myself to kind of just be nervous and feel through that, and then apply the lessons I mentioned before, being authentic, being vulnerable, not pretending I have more than I have with these guys. Like, nobody judged me like I thought they were going to judge me, right? Or if they did, they're not doing it to my face. And if anything, I've gotten tremendous value in return from these guys. Just suggestions on what I should do from a capital raise standpoint. We sell sponsorships with Multifamily and More. And like, I literally tripled the price of the sponsorship because of one challenge, right? Like, I was ready to go sell them for X dollars. They said, no, man, you got to sell it for Y dollars. I met in the middle because I was nervous about going to how high they were asking, and sold them like that. It was little effort. People were like, oh yeah, I'll pay that. Like, Jesus, I would have had to sell 10 where I sold 3, right? So little things like that, where these guys challenge and push and really encourage me, is the value I get out of it. But I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I allowed that first thought, that imposter syndrome, that feeling that I don't belong here, to overcome me and walk away from something that's great. And I'm sure I've done that. I can't think of it. I'm sure I've done that in other areas of life where I was in a situation, this isn't very comfortable, I don't belong here, and I just walked away from it, right? But in these few instances I just mentioned, I mean, every time, as long as I'm authentic and clear and I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable, I mean, I overcome that. So to your point about imposter syndrome and overcoming it, I think it's being, one, aware of what it is, 2, aware when it's happening, when it's like bubbling up inside of you in the moment, like what's going on around me and why am I feeling this way? And then 3, making a decision. And doesn't mean one way is the right or wrong decision, but do I push through? Okay, I get it. I'm feeling a little bit like the low man on the totem pole here. Let me push through because I think there's value in this for me, and I think I can eventually add value. Or do I walk away? Is it not for me? Does it not resonate? Is it a no? Is it not a hell yeah? Right. So those are kind of a couple of things in there that I think about. And then the last part on that, once I got into a group like Gobundance, like, yeah, I can't speak to what it is to make $1 million a year like some of the guys I meet with every other week, right? I don't have that experience. So in that regard, I can't really advise on, well, if you're making $1 million a year, this is what I would do. But we also talk about being husbands and fathers. We talk about our contribution, what we do to contribute to others. And in some areas, I'm the exemplar for them, right? Like, wow, what do you do with your wife? Wow, that's really cool. So this guy making 1.2, 1.3 a year is very financially successful, but has created maybe disconnect with his family. And there I can add value to this person. It may not be financially, but in another way. And that revelation for me was like, wow, you just don't know. Like, at the end of the day, we're all people. We all are good at some things and not so good at other things. Just because somebody has financial success does not mean they have all of life figured out. In fact, most of the time they don't. They've been singularly focused on financial success and have given up on a lot of other areas of life, or gardens, as we call them, of life, because not given up, but they've neglected those. And now they're trying to find the path to that. And in some of those, I can add value. So good thing I push through, I guess, is the way I think about it.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, you don't wake up knowing how to underwrite a syndication.
That's right.
You have to figure it out over time and get advice and help and participate. Same thing with a good relationship with your wife. You don't wake up having a good relationship with your wife and kids. It takes practice. And excellent point. You can't always contribute to what you think is the goal of the mastermind that you're part of because it was tied to
net worth,
a level of net worth, but you can certainly contribute in other ways.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate what you can bring to the table.
That's true.
Yeah. Your timing on bringing up Gobundance was perfect because that's where I was headed. Tell us, if you would, this Emerge, Ascend programs through Gobundance that you've taken on. You said you were actually approached by them, because in my mind, I'm thinking, as you're telling what you just told about what you've given in value to the group, I'm thinking, oh, this is exactly maybe the reason why they approached him. Is that fair? Or if you want to share more on how that kind of came about?
I think so. I think there's an element of that, you know, I'm a contributor. I'm somebody who is, so yeah. All right. So Emerge and Ascend real quick. I'll go back a second and explain this. So as a member of Gobundance, again, you have to have a million net worth, which I'm very humbled to be a part of that. I don't want this to sound like, yeah, look at me, but it just, you know, I lived long enough. I accumulated enough and here I am. Right. So,
Yeah.
so I joined this group. I overcome that imposter syndrome, and it took me a year, probably like the first year of it. I was like, you know, I was a little in, little out. And then year two, I finally said to myself, enough, man, you're investing money in this and time. You're going to these events, like, you know, engage more, like, you know, get to know these guys more. Don't stop being afraid of, you know, this imposter syndrome being found out. And so my level of contribution in year two stepped up significantly. And that was the beginning of this year, really. Along the way, what I was doing with things like multifamily and more became known, like, oh, that's interesting. So this guy started a brand, he's done this, he's done that. And as we went along through the year and I got to know the guys that founded GoBundance a little bit better, I learned that they were looking at, you know, trying to build I don't know, a structure that allows for people to be part of GoBundance that are not yet at the $1 million mark. So we want to keep kind of the quote unquote sanctity of the GoBundance group as it is, because we talk, I mean, look, in accredited investor terms, right? There are some deals presented that can't be presented to people that are not accredited. So you have to keep GoBundance as is, million plus net worth, accredited investors, essentially. But for those that are not quite there yet, you know, whatever, they're 26 and just haven't hit there. But man, you know, the trajectory of this person is they'll be the most rich person in this group in 5 years. You know, like for those folks that crave the room to be in the room with GoBundance, but maybe aren't quite there yet, or have had a setback, went through whatever, right? For whatever reason, they just haven't achieved that. Can we create something that helps them get there? And so, based on my work with the Multifamily and More group, building that and creating what it was, and the brand building and all of that I did there, they kind of mentioned, hey, we've been trying to do something for like a year. We just haven't had like the quarterback to take it across the goal line. It just kind of starts and stops. You know, here's what we're thinking. This is something you think you could take on. For me, that was a hell yeah, because I love branding. I love the mindset piece, and this was literally to build a course and a mastermind that helps people improve their mindset. So hell yeah, all day. It took me 2 seconds to say yes. That bubbled up in my chest immediately is what I wanted to do. So we created Emerge and Ascend. So I'll quickly outline what that is. Emerge is a 12-week course centered around goal setting. You come in, you set a goal, you get weekly drops of content that teach you how to create your vision, how to set the goal, how to create habits that support that goal, how to plan so that you don't come off track with that goal. Then we go through kind of a few weeks of an intensive around the book Tribe of Millionaires, which was written by the GoBundance founders. And we break that down into lessons week over week. And the whole time you're getting kind of live intervention weekly, right? You get a case study with millionaires. We have a millionaire come on, you get on a Zoom call with him, you get to pick his or her brain. We have live motivation each week. A really, really cool 12-week packaged course that we do. And for those that are actual participants, which about half are, it's amazing. People plunk their money down and invest in this thing, and then they put it on the shelf. They don't do much with it. But about half, 60% are really engaged and really participating. And we wanted to do this. I wanted to do it this way because of that. That 60% will be invited to be in Ascend, which is a full-on mastermind, an annual mastermind that you pay, you know, an annual tuition to. You invest your money into it, and you get, you know, the accountability pods. You get proximity to the GoBundance folks, access to partnering with them, all of that stuff. That's what Ascend is. So Emerge, you come in, you execute the 12-week course, you get transformation around one singular goal that you set for that 12 weeks. You do it, you graduate, you move into Ascend, and in Ascend, we can really work with you. And just think of it in steps, right? You come in and Emerge, you get into Ascend, you build yourself to millionaire, you join GoBundance, and then even within GoBundance, we have a champion division, 5 million up. You can just kind of come in at the ground level and work your way all the way up through, the whole while with proximity to amazing people that'll drive you forward. That's the idea behind Emerge and Ascend.
I envision those two programs allowing someone to come into GoBundance with, as opposed to Jamie Gruber that came in the first year and felt a little imposter syndrome. They come in, they're just freaking on fire. They know they deserve to be there. They're there making things happen from day one. Is that sort of why it was created, maybe?
One of the many reasons, like the couple of reasons really were, so when you're at a level, I've learned this, when you're at a level of some of these guys, like David Osborne, I don't know if you're familiar with David Osborne, but he wrote a book called Wealth Can't Wait. He's the #1 Keller Williams owner in the country, maybe the world for that matter. 120, 130 million net worth plus, you know, private jet, the whole nine. Like, guy's uber rich, one of the founders of GoBundance. And he, along with many of these other guys who are truly financially free, like money is just it's like a measurement. That's all it is, right? It's like they don't worry about money. Money is just a measurement of how well they're doing. Like I'm only at 5 million. I was at 5.5 million, but they're making 60, 70, 80 passively a month. Like these guys, all they care about is contribution at that point, which is one of the gardens we have in Gobundance. So the number one goal of building Emerge and Ascend was the term, and as I say the term many times, I wonder if it comes across a little condescending, but throw down the rope. So, hey, we've achieved a level of success. We're climbing that ladder. The next best thing you can do is throw the rope down and help the next guy or gal get pulled.
Oh, man, I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
So number one is for that reason, throw the rope down. And for those that are of the right mindset, that are driving toward, who want to be part of something like this, who want to achieve big goals in life, throw the rope down and help them drag themselves up. So that's number one. Number two, for me, as they gave me this project, they're like, well, this becomes like a lifetime consumer type of thing, right? So if you're familiar with Gobundance or not, or some people like kind of like, oh man, I want to get into Gobundance. I want to be in that room because they hear Brandon Turner, David Green from Bigger Pockets, who are members, talk about it and the value it's brought to their lives. So when they want to be parts of it, well, hey, come in and Emerge, dive into Ascend, and then we've got now, like a lifetime connected customer, if you will, for the Gobundance community. For me, I wanted to connect people to the brand. That's goal number two. And then goal number three for me is why Emerge and then Ascend is I want to filter out those that are like the talkers and the doers, right? So the doers, you're going to come and do, like we're going to get the best of the best in Ascend. And then to your point, within Ascend, what are you working on? Oh, you're really great at this. Well, I got this guy in Gobundance with more money than time who's looking to invest in something like that. So what if he puts up the money, you put up your time, and you 50-50 JV on this business, this deal, whatever it may be, but connecting these guys and gals together so that they have the ability to build wealth and build connections. So to your point, when they hit Gobundance, it's like, okay, yeah, we're waiting for you. Like, the door's been open for you. We've just been waiting for you to hit the number, like any day now, come on. But they know each other. They've connected with one another. The best of the best in Ascend, our ascending stars, are invited to the Gobundance event so that they can get proximity to the guys and gals of Gobundance. So yeah, absolutely. They get a red carpet, if you will, into that room, and they don't deal with the imposter syndrome that I dealt with walking into the door. Is like, I don't know any of these people. I just know they're way richer than me, and I don't know how I could do anything for any of them. That's all gone because they've learned those lessons coming up through the ranks.
I do like the point also that you mentioned that you end up being able to use these two, Emerge and Ascend, to basically filter people out that if they had entered Gobundance right away, even though they've got the million net worth and they're really just not going to contribute anything, they're wasting their time, they're wasting your time. And I've found the exact same thing to be true in multifamily education platforms or any education platform where people are propping 20, 50K down. Half of them waste their money. They don't engage because they think there's some instant return or something. And it blows my mind. And one other thing I want to touch on, and I hear you didn't say this verbally, but all the points we've talked about with Gobundance and networking, you've said this. For me personally, just investing in multifamily, and now I'm huge on mindset as well. I've had these multiple aha moments where I've realized, oh, I do have the knowledge and the skills and the experience and the education now. I am adding value to people or people that ask me questions. And I know with all three of us, we get phone calls and texts every day from whoever we've come across paths of, hey, what should I do in this situation? And it's very gratifying. That doesn't mean that you've arrived or you're the expert, but yet you've been, and you're not afraid to be vulnerable. I'm not afraid to tell people I've lost money in multifamily. I've lost money flipping houses, because then people know that you're real. I think vulnerability and authenticity, those are both the currencies, if you will, kind of go along with each other that you touched on.
No, I completely agree. And it's funny you say that, because even the guys that come into Gobundance who, they're millionaires, like they get it, right? A lot of them, like a couple locally will be referred over to me like, hey, Jamie, can you talk to these? They're considering Gobundance. They want to talk to somebody local, because we do like local chapters and stuff like that. And I'll talk to them, and I depending on the guy, I'll end up saying the same thing, like when they're asking about the value of their tuition. Now, again, I don't know, Gobundance, $7-8 a year. It's not like it. I mean, it's a lot of money, but for some of these guys, it's not a ton. And it's a write-off, right? It's a business expense and all that. So I get a little bit in my head, like, you're asking me if it's going to work. Like, that's kind of what the mindset is. Like, is this going to work? It's like, I tell them like, no, because you're asking that question. Like, and I, not to be a dick about it, but it's like, look, the guys that come into Gobundance and get the most value out of it, they go in with, okay, cool, I'm in that room. How do I contribute to these guys? And I didn't realize that's why I had imposter syndrome. I wanted to contribute. I didn't want to like get from them. I wanted to give as much as I could. And I felt like I couldn't, therefore the imposter syndrome. So the guys that come in that say, hey, what can I get out of this? What am I going to get? They're sitting back, kind of arms crossed, like, all right, where's my value here? And they're never going to be satisfied if they paid $20, $10,000 or $50,000. But those that go in and say, man, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tear this up. I'm going to make sure I pour as much as I can into this. I just see them getting deal flow, partnering up with guys. It's amazing to see what they get when they give. But even guys who you think are informed and, they've figured it out in their millionaire status, they still don't. They're looking at what's my ROI here. It's like, well, it depends on what your contribution will be. So, and your point about, bringing them in at the Emerge and Ascend level and teaching that, and kind of getting them of that mindset, walking into Gobundance, it just makes for a stronger tribe. And when we have that, every one of us benefits. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about, the mastermind thing has two components to it, and you touched on it. You get in, you get fed some worksheets or some goal sheets and some guidance on whatever, any number of things that can be mindset related, can be, personal goal related. And you also get that just from reading a book or doing a small thing. But what paying for and participating in a mastermind, you get the accountability side of it as well. And that is where the rubber really hits the road, is on the execution side of things, because I can vision board myself, all over the house, but until I actually go out and do something, it's never going to be accomplished. So when you got people, in the Emerge thing, I'm like, oh, they set up a filter, okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically getting people that are achievers into the next level. If I'm paying for something, I don't want people to just be passed along like we are in high school or something and we all graduate. I do want to be grouped with the people that are high achievers, and so having some kind of filter actually works to your advantage. So it doesn't have to be a multi-$1,000 mastermind meeting.
Yeah.
You can set up a mastermind meeting with a group of friends at no cost and accomplish some of the same things. Because many of my best friends, they're not in real estate at all. So I can't go to them necessarily at the same level for accomplishing certain goals as I can to people that are specific to a particular category of my growth that I want to achieve.
Yeah. And to your point, like Multifamily More is a free platform. You can find people in there that you can resonate with. It goes back to Darren, what you were talking about, because people ask me about masterminds and I've always struggled to I don't know how to explain. Like I try to use buzz phrases like it's not a cost, it's an investment. And people can, oh, okay, that's cute. You twisted the words investment, right? And all that stuff. But here's how I look at it. I go back to my time, return on effort, to your point, Darren. So Gobundance is 300 guys, right? 300 guys in the men's tribe, and there's like 120 in the women's tribe. So 300 guys that are millionaire, father, husband, by virtue of that, they tend to be in that 35 to 50 range, it's pretty specific group of guys that are all millionaires, entrepreneurial, and high-minded for the most part, right? Like as far as they think big, they think of, and then they crave and push accountability, to your point. So I can, with my time, I can go out into my neighborhood and start tapping shoulders and talking to everybody I can, starting up conversations with as many people as possible until I find 300 of them that will, for free, come and sit with me and, we'll interact with one another. But I think you can imagine that if I were to go around my town and try to find 300 millionaire men who are looking to be better fathers and husbands and think big and seeking accountability, it's going to take me a while, right? It's going to take me a lot of time. Or I can drop $7,000 and they're all right in one room, right? Like to me, yes, it's a lot of money. And we were talking before, but like over the course of a year, a lot of us waste $7,000 like on things that are not so good for us, right? You go out drinking, you spend way too much on a gigantic tomahawk steak that's, clogging your arteries, which is tasty. I'm guilty, trust me. But my point is like you spend plenty of money on lattes and all this other crap that are $6-7 a day that add up to damn close to $7,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 a year or whatever, depending on what you're doing. Or you could take that money, invest in you, truly get around a bunch of people that are going to hold you accountable. And you will see, if you leverage that, you will see results from that. I've seen results from every group I've ever belonged to. So yeah, I 100% with you on that. I think it's, you can do it with, typically what I found is when people do form that mastermind with, like you said, a group of people, it's because they got them from another mastermind they were a part of, right? Like they resonated with guys or gals from a mastermind, free or not, like Multifamily and More is a free platform. You go in there, you meet people, and then 4 of you form a little mastermind group where you hold each other accountable. Go do that. Do that at least. But if you don't have the time or energy, inclination to do that, go someplace that has a system set up, processes set up for you to be held accountable, for you to set goals, for you to be around people that are already filtered and like-minded. I don't know. I find tremendous value. I don't know if I'll be in Gobundance forever, but I'll be in a mastermind setting forever, no matter what it's for. Like there's a Front Row Dads mastermind. I mean, I've thought about, should I join that, right? To be part of a bunch of dads that are looking to be better dads. Cause I have my moments, trust me, where I'm not dad of the year. There's plenty of those. But being around like-minded people in any area of life that you feel that you need accountability and the right community to drive you forward. Listen to Russell Brunson. He talks about how he started out learning things, and then he joined a mastermind. Listen to Dean Graziosi. Listen to Tony Robbins. Listen to any of them. They do the exact same thing. So success leaves clues, and I am not going to pretend to know more than Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Dean Graziosi, David Osborne, any of these guys who invest heavily in the concept of the mastermind, or Napoleon Hill, who introduced the concept in Think or Grow Rich, right? So to me, it's just a no-brainer. Like, whatever I can find, whatever I want to work on, I'm going to find the group that drives me forward, and I'm going to invest in it because, I'm worth it.
Yeah. Just make it a budget item. That's how I think of it. Just like make it part of your, you pay for so many other things that you get value from and that you need, throw this in the needs column.
Yeah.
And start paying for it. So
agreed.
I don't know. That was like a really good point to end on. I want to be conscious of your time. I know you probably got other stuff to do besides entertain us all morning.
It's been fun. I love talking. You can probably tell from my cadence kind of picks up. I love talking. Multifamily is awesome. We've done great things in multifamily already, and we're learning a ton, and we're moving forward and all that stuff. But none of it is doable. You don't buy that property. You don't stick through the due diligence and all of that. You don't do any of this stuff without foundational components of mindset, accountability, community, tribe, partnership. All of that has to be in place. So the fact that it's, people try to get tactical sometimes with you, like, yeah, but how do you do it? It's like, look, here's there's playbooks everywhere. You could go online right now and find step 1 through 30. Go listen to a podcast. Plenty of place to find. That's not what's holding you back from doing or not doing a deal or from moving forward or whatever. It has nothing to do with the steps.
Yeah.
Like it's hard, but it's easy. It's the mindset.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
I would add to, it's a lot of this, like, yeah, you can read a book, you can learn steps, but when you start talking to people that had, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, you were a little bit further ahead than some of the people in your meetup. When you start hearing theory turned to real life experience and you can put the two together, that's when I really start to understand. I'm like, oh, okay, this is something I learned about how to analyze multifamily. Here now somebody's talking to me about it, how it's specifically applied to a scenario. That's for me where the understanding really starts happening. So until you take the theory and start either putting it into practice yourself or start talking to people that are willing to share their experience and add the nuance to the theory, and there's a ton of it, you might be treading a little bit water a little bit longer before you reach shore.
Makes sense.
Darren, were you going to say something else? I thought.
No, yeah, my thought was just you can talk tactical all day long. When you talk about something about underwriting, obviously there are steps involved and nitty-gritty things that need to happen, but you're just talking about getting something done in general. Just go get the shit done. I don't care what your steps are. I don't care how you get it done. Just get it done. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think Greg and I resonate together with is that we're like, yeah, like I'm saying, underwriting is one of those exceptions where, yeah, there are certain ways to do it. But just in general, like, we're going to start our own management company soon because we're tired of our other management company.
Yeah.
No one's going to run your business like yours. And I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but the point is like, the point is like 2 years ago, I said, there's no way I'm going to do that. Now, with our experience, and we're not going to know everything when we push the button, but by gosh, we're going to push the darn button.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to then it just has to happen.
Yeah.
And it will, because that's how we've done some other things.
Work on the next thing in front of you, the next thing in front of you, the next thing in front
Correct.
of you.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that to me is mindset.
Yep. 100%. Because you have to have it. You have to have that foundation, that vision, all of that stuff in order to make it through. Otherwise you stop on step 2 because you hear the step 3, like, oh my God, what else don't I know? You get overwhelmed, you go back to Netflix, right? Whereas like what you don't know is step 3. That's it. Don't worry about step 4 and 5. You don't know step 3. Once you learn step 3, then you'll learn step 4. And there's not this huge, I mean, there may be, but you'll learn the things you need to learn to get to where you need to get to. And even then, once you've built a management company, and this, guaranteed within 2 months, you're going to learn something like, oh, we have a management company. We should know that. We didn't know that, like a legal or an insurance or a something that, you had no idea about, and you'll figure it out.
No doubt. That's all, man. I'm ready to go join
Come on in.
Or one of the lower tiers. I'm definitely on one of the lower tiers at this point.
So yeah, Jamie, give us the highlights. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Whatever you're willing to share in the contact info verbally, we'll drop stuff in the show notes as well. Sure. But yeah, if somebody wants to call your cell phone number, what is it?
So here's what I'll do instead. I'll give you some social media handles. So at Multifamily and More, all one word, Multifamily and More on Instagram, on Facebook. You can follow, like, and do all of that with us there. We have multiple groups you can find as well in Facebook. So at Multifamily and More anywhere. For those of you that might be interested in the Gobundance Emerge program, you just go to gobundance.com/emerge and you'll see the page there and take a look and all of that. And you can contact us through that page as well. So either or, DM me through Instagram or Facebook, and I'll be happy to reply with any questions you have.
Okay.
Right awesome, man. We'll let you know when this gets published and goes out as well.
Cool. I appreciate it, guys. This is fun. I had a lot of fun with this. Thank you for the time with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool.
And
I really appreciate it.
As always, we appreciate a like and a share. And you know somebody that could benefit from what Jamie shared with us today, feel free to share it with them. And for us, you can find us at realwealth.solutions and on the usual social media platforms except toxic Twitter. So we appreciate your time. That's my op-ed comment.
I get it.
Own that one alone.
Not a Twitter guy either. Yeah.
Yeah. I can barely get stuff done without being on Twitter. Seems like a full-time job. Anyway, for the Real Wealth Solutions podcast, I'm your co-host, Greg Scully, saying goodbye for Darren and Jamie as well. We will see you on the next episode. Later.
Thanks, everybody.